Hey guys, word of the wise. I just want to cover a couple of things here from my last video. The Armor of Truth situation. No response. No answer to my comments. I did leave a second comment from my other channel on his. He made a YouTube short video, so I left a comment there, kind of just rehashing the whole thing. Just how can you delete comments? Why would you not rebuke? Why would you not correct? Why would you not help guide somebody when you're even your name is Armor of Truth and you're not? You have some chinks in your armor. Let's just say that. So that's the most upsetting part about that whole thing. And he has also made a number 416 video. So I clicked on that the other day and had seen that there's no comments allowed on that video either. So maybe that's the way he's going to go moving forward. I think that's just very concerning. If you are trying to say that, prove me wrong, and somebody asks the questions against your proof and you have no response and you're talking politics, I get it. I think he has children, and the older they get, the more concerned you are about how they have to interact in the world. The other part of that video, talking about like 2 Thessalonians, politics and religion coming together, a great video for everybody to check out would be Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. Is the road to apostasy. It's over there in the timepiece land at the Western Wall, and U.S. politicians and religious leaders of sorts, I don't really know who everybody is, and then same thing for their side, all mingling. They're all having some ceremony talking about how great they all are, and it's like, anybody that's seen anything about Gaza and the way it looks and how many people have gotten hurt over there, lost everything, and they're over there still just patting themselves on the back, and it's like, wow. Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, though, great. And that's another thing that kind of really affected me with that 415 Armor of Truth video, was him having the symbols from Days of Noah, the icons, whatever and they're not even in the video, so I never watched the video. I just skimmed through it to see if they were a guest on the show. I don't know if they're still all buddies or what's going on. But I found that kind of like clickbait on top of all that. But if that idea of politics and religion coming together, looking at chapter 13 in Revelations, where the second beast, who can make war with the beast? Who declares war? It's mainly leaders, political leaders, So we'd have to imagine that as somebody in politics. And then in the second half, the beast that comes out of the earth, you're looking at chapter 9 in Revelations, where it talks about the pit being opened and the locust coming out. I'm pretty sure if locusts came out of the earth and people started pointing out that this is what was written in the Bible, I'm pretty sure that Satan would lose a big portion of his game plan. Here again, if it's something in a vision that needs to be interpreted, understood later, in our generation, in our time, in our future, we might be dead by then. Who knows? It could be 100 years from now. We don't really fully know what's going to happen until we actually see it happening. Because I'm sure for centuries people have said, this is the signs, keep an eye on this, that, and this. Oh, here's World War One. This is a sign of the end times. Oh, that didn't happen. Okay, well, here's a World War II. Here's a sign of the end times, the apocalypse. And here they are, 75 years later, 80 years later. So I guess a little preface to the waters in Revelations that concerns me. Looking at Matthew 24, Daniel 11, doesn't speak a lot about, these kinds of things. Where does the water come into play here? And a thing that kind of clicked in my head years ago was, well, the prostitute in chapter 17 in Revelations, she sits in many waters, and then the angel interprets to her, or to John, the Revelator, I will show you what these things are. The woman who sits on many of the waters are peoples, nations, and tongues, and multitudes. And it's like, okay, well, wait. The second trumpet speaks about the sea. The second bowl speaks about the sea. The third trumpet speaks about rivers and springs. And in the bowls, in the third bowl, it speaks about rivers and springs. So what's happening here? And I'll show you just a whole little bunch of clips of the sea and the waters being talked about here in Revelations. And other than those parts that come into kind of a time frame here, like things happened and then the waters come to be harmed. Because man has sinned in the garden and through, born with sin, God's going to show, you guys are sinning, the fish are going to die. A third of the vessels in the sea are going to get punished because of what you guys are doing. Something about that just doesn't fit right in my mind and the whole puzzle pieces of what is what. So let me just show you guys. And hopefully this makes a lot more sense. And again, I always think outside the box and I see things from multiple angles of what is. Is this a true thing that we're going to see? The mark of the beast? Mark on your hand? Yeah, I'm sure that is going to be a physical mark. At least I'm 99% sure, 90% sure. Is the mark that God makes on people's foreheads, is that going to be seen? Now you got to think twice about the whole mark on the hand and the mark on the forehead, right? Otherwise you can't buy or sell. So, chapter 8 in Revelations, the second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on the third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the waters because it had been made bitter. Okay. So now, before we hit the second bowl and the third bowl, let's just read the first one real quick and see, does that then, because of the first bowl, roll to the second bowl, and it starts snowballing. The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the earth, and harmful pains and sores came upon the people who bore the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The second angel poured out its bowl into the sea, and it became like the blood of a corpse, and every living thing in the sea died. Those fish, oof, dolphins, sea turtles, all gone. Or else, what is the other alternative? The third angel poured out his bowl into the rivers and the springs of water, and they became blood. And I heard the angel in charge of the water say, Just are you, O Holy One, who is and who was, and who has brought these judgments, for they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and you have given them blood to drink. It is what they deserve. And I heard the altar saying, Yes, Lord God Almighty, true and just are your judgments. So the people at the altar are saying that because you are punishing the sea, it's your creation, you can do whatever you want with it. Who can say anything different? Now, chapter 17, verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality with. Verse 15. And the angel said to me, The waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. Okay? So, now, if you go to chapter 21, that is where the new heaven and new earth come down. So verse 1, Then I saw a new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And the sea was no more. The sea is gone. Because the new heaven and the new earth are coming down, there's not going to be an ocean to swim in, surf, go to the beaches. All that's going to be gone. There's no more sea. Or speaking about something else. Remains to be seen. But if you go to chapter 20, just before this, where it talks about the resurrection, the war with Satan, and how fire comes down to destroy the enemies who come against the holy people, the saints. Some would say that is the Israel. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one of them according to what they had done. As the books are opened and the judgment comes. The dead in the sea. I think that is the most telling part of the whole waters idea. And I think it's the most important thing to consider in this is the sea gives up the dead that were in it. Now, this could be talking also, thinking outside the box even further. Noah. What happened? The earth flooded. All the people of the earth died in the flood, in the sea, at that time. Who was saved? The ones on the ark. So those who were in the sea died and were not good enough to get on the boat. They didn't choose to get on the boat. All they had to do was get on the boat. And they mocked him and turned him away. And they all died in the sea. Just ideas. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a priest. I'm not a scholar. I'm just trying to interpret it for what it is and what it says. I like that these ideas pop in my head. So, just a word of the wise, guys. God bless. Have a good weekend.